the bigger picture. And so we're being put in a position where we may need youth services to fill that gap. So, I mean, that's just an observation, and so I can only work it off of what's been said.
Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Yule, I don't think Ms. O'Leary's been deputized as a police officer, and I don't think she's running into the park at night to break up a fight. I think what the point that was trying to be made, maybe she is. Maybe she has been deputized too. I think the point that Rita was trying to make was Jenny comes into play in the aftermath. There's been a fight. She's there. She's a mediator between the participants in the fight. She directs them and directs their energies in a positive light. The police may use her for a diversionary program instead of sending these youths through the court system where they have a criminal record or a juvenile record that's only going to come back and bite them later on in life. This is a way for the police department to use Jenny to direct these youths somewhere else, maybe by community service instead of bringing an action against them in juvenile court or adult court.
I understand that perspective.
In that way there, we also
We've been
reduce...
doing that for years, though, Sean. I mean,
No, but...
for the chief. I mean, kids have been doing community service through our local departments for years. The police department's been very proactive in that respect.
I'm just responding to Mr. Yule's concern about having Miss O'Leary running into the parks during...
I just don't want everybody to be misled that this program is just that it's been initiated and started here in
No,
already.
but the benefit to that also is that then you don't have police officers who are subpoenaed to court. You're not paying overtime for them to come into court. So there's a savings there as well that the community realizes. So there's a benefit there.
You're correct. My concern here is that non-authorized personnel, for lack of a better description, is going to the park and dealing with a situation that we have authorized people to deal with. All right? No, I mean, that is what's happening. It's not on the police blotter. I didn't see.
Maybe Jenny herself can answer that, but I think the point is she's not doing that.
Neither can answer.
Ken, please.
Ken Tarr, 14 Winter Street. To that point, going beyond the initial police contact and anything to do with a program, a youth services program, I've worked with youth for well over 25 years in different stages. Now, we're a small town. No matter how fast we're growing or not growing, we're still a small town. You have a different personality when you're in North Reading as a youth, and then you go off into the bigger world. Okay, youth services program teaches you, so we talk about, okay, they went on a field trip or they had a movie night or whatever. Well, that in itself is a learning process. Because when you have middle school students and high school students going out of their own accord and having a good time, usually that involves doing things that we as parents and adults frown upon. Now this is showing an alternative. You can get together with a bunch of kids and not have to be drinking, not have to be doing any drugs, not have to be breaking the law, and still have a good time. It also gives you a group of friends that you know you have, whether you succumb to peer pressure or not. So it makes you a stronger person. It makes you get better decisions. That's one of the things that youth services does. Now I have 2 children who graduated in 97 and in 2000. And I'm really tired of seeing at least once a month in the transcript in the obituary section a memorial for one of those students that went to school with them, because they didn't have a program where they could learn how to go off into the bigger world and make good choices. And they didn't make good choices, and their families and the community are suffering because of it. So there's a lot more that this offers than fun events. There's a lot more that it offers that the police can't offer by punishment or whatever, even community service. As good as that can be, this is a follow-up. It gives a support group, it gives organizational skills, it gives you direction to make good choices in your future. So I'd say at least let's get it on for town meeting and let the town decide and worry about now and worry about the next fiscal year in April town meeting. That gives us time to work.
Board members, I think we've had substantial discussion on the subject, and I would appeal to all of you to at least go forward and allow the line item to be added to the operating budget. And as Mr. Jones has pointed out, there is a second potential source of funds. My first priority would be to, if town meeting approves the meals tax, is to use that money to fund the program for fiscal 2010, the balance of 2010. And if not, to tap the available money in the stabilization fund to cover that.
What are we doing in anticipation of the warning that the A&F secretary put out to local officials just last week? That 9 seat cuts are coming in state government and local aid is probably going to be touched again. Again, and I just get concerned in relation to the potential of trying to maintain what we have and the effects that state government can and probably will have on us again this year. I mean, we positioned ourselves fairly well in the last fiscal year. We have some reserves right now, fortunately. We're in better shape than some communities. But nothing that can withstand or sustain ourselves, you know, well, hopefully can sustain us through the current fiscal year should we sustain these anticipated cuts. We don't know to what degree yet.
We don't know to what degree.
But what we have done is we have budgeted and planned on having some reserves available just in case. And this wasn't factored in. This wasn't talked about during our budgetary discussion. This wasn't talked about until 3 weeks ago. And that's unfortunate.
Maybe so, but we're talking about $35,000, and I think we'll be able to weather the storm. State aid's cut. I'm sure and confident this board will find a way in order to withstand that again.
I never anticipated or even heard until this week that if we were going to raise the meals tax, that we were going to target the funds that were raised for that for a position in town hall or the school department. Now we're talking about targeting revenues, anticipated revenue streams for specific positions.
It appears to me to be a prudent approach to take, at least to get us through FY10.
Is it the intent of yourself, I guess, you know, to sustain this in the next upcoming fiscal year? That's what I said earlier. If we're going to do that, let's say it. Let's say it.
I for one, would
You know,
hope that
let's
we'd
say it.
be able to find a way to do that.
I'm in
Yes.
support of it.
Yeah, okay, let's say it then. You know, that's fine. And
I am.
if that's what the
No
majority
doubt.
of the board is willing to do, go forward, then let's put that as part of our game plan and do it.
Yeah, my plan isn't to support it for FY10 and then come and cut the position in FY11. I would hope that I or we would find a way to support it in the future.
That hasn't been said until just now.
Well, it was my intent.
I don't think it,
You know, I mean, why would I support it if,
I don't know.
you know?
You know,
I'd
other
like
than
to
cutting
find-
this, other than, you know, other than
I'd
not
like to
wanting to
find-
cut it mid-year, a portion of
I'd
the
like
year.
to find a way of coming up with a way of sustaining it and minimizing the impact on the overall revenue stream.
That's fine, but in doing so, and
But I don't
that's-
know if we
but if
can.
that- but right, in doing so, how are we going to backfill the positions in the police department? How are we going to fill the IT position that we need vitally? How are we going to fill, you know, some of the school positions that we haven't talked about? And thank goodness the federal funds have come through and bailed us out, and we're not facing amending the FY 2010 budget with not one thing from the school department,
Well,
and we
well-
were almost $400,000 short
maybe we
Well,
could-
2 months ago.
For the record, right, the IT position and the GIS position is funded in the budget. It's
And
just
we're
that
not filling it. We put a
We're
freeze on it.
not filling it at this point, that's
We
correct.
have put a freeze on it for a reason. Right. And
Well,
again,
I
we haven't
believe the
addressed any
freeze
of the
is-
school department issues.
The
at
school
all.
department issues are, as far as I'm concerned,
huge.
they're huge, but, you know, we voted their budget, right? You know, they're planning on operating on a substantial increase over general government's down 3%. Right, we're using the additional money to cover the snow and ice budget, right, which helps the school. The school has got all the help that I think any of us could expect to give them, and then some. Yeah, I agree, going forward. You know, we're struggling with this whole thing, right? Unless state support, you know, state aid is increased, we're going to be talking about this till next town meeting, and then some.
You're not gonna see any increase
But
because
that
the
doesn't,
revenue
you know,
projections are off again.
$35,000, in my opinion, isn't going to break any budget. Isn't going to break the school budget, isn't going to break the town budget. And as a member of the Finance Committee for years, right, we balanced the budget saying if we're within $50,000, it's a non-issue. Because generally, our revenue, our anticipated revenue exceeds the revenue that we use in the budget because we're conservative.
We were not so
I'm not
conservative.
concerned about the $35,000, Steve, whether it comes out of free cash, whether it comes out of the increase in the meals tax, or we take it out of the stabilization instead of holding $120,000 in case we have an energy issue. We now have $85,000.
Mr. Chair, right now you mentioned the $35,000. Mr. Delaney's talking about going beyond beyond the next few years with the program. So we're not really talking about $35,000.
No, we're talking about $35,000 for this year. We're not talking about any more. In terms of carrying the program forward, the budget is approximately $60,000.
Right.
But we've also asked for programs. There's potential grants that need to be pursued, right? That we've got to get to work. The Youth Services Department's got to get to work to try to come up with some additional funds.
If we look at this as a bridge to June 30th, and Narissa can present something that we can go forward with, I don't think it's fair for a program like this to be, and I know we have to do it every year anyway with our budgets, but to constantly have them hanging by a string. Either we make a commitment to the program, as Steve said, or we don't, okay? But if this is going to be a bridge between now and June 30th, where Narissa pulls a solid program together with intent, because not everything is perfect, put a solid program together to show that they plan to, and most likely can, raise a good portion of funds to help defray the cost of this program.
They're talking about
No,
programming, not
I thought Narissa was very clear.
Yeah, they just want to support programming,
Narissa
not
said
salary.
I understand
that
that.
they were prepared to come up with funding and some ideas to support growth in programs. And they are asking the town to pick up that position. I think it's a valuable service. I think it's something that we should continue and find a way of funding. And I think it should be a priority. If you don't agree with it, fine. But we can also let the town decide. And since we hold control over it, I'm asking the board
I guess, you
to...
know, if the finance planning team had come up and said, you know what, we'll find the money within the current operating budget to do it because it's that important to us, school department and general government, that would have given me more pause to really consider it. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
The school department didn't want to provide additional funds.
Right. So it's not, it didn't, the services that are being provided to augment the school department and school system, it did not rise to the level that it was worth $20,000 or $17,500.
Everyone was protected their own pocketbook. That's my sense of what happened.
Right.
And I don't think we should allow that to dictate what we decide on this side of the town in terms of funding this position to get through FY10 and hopefully find a way
All
to
right.
support it going in the future.
We can talk this thing to death, and we're not going to get any further. I'll entertain a motion to put the $35,000, what line item is it, Barbara?
Line item 9.
Line item 9,
Administrator.
town administrator. Under Article 4. Funding source to be determined, and in the article, in the reading of the article, it says as follows: raised by taxation and appropriate appropriate by transfer from unexpected